Yes, indeed. It's just one day to the D-Day, and everywhere, the tension that has been at the peak is seeming to wane. The final political hours approach when Nigeria will face what some have described as the toughest test of her electoral experimentation. How ready are the electorate to vote? Good evening and welcome to the program. I am Neota Egbe. It's China's chairman Mao Zedong who was first quoted as saying, "Politics is war without bloodshed, while war is politics with bloodshed." In Nigeria, the tension and anticipation is high across the nation, and while the nation is upbeat and assured of an atmosphere to conduct general elections, everyone is looking forward to this day. As much as the collection of PVCs are still going on in some of the states, the campaigns are winding down now with the attendant closing arguments. The weary politicians are slowly beginning to wonder, were they effective in their journeys across the country to woo the electorate? How is it playing out across the state? Well, we're hoping we'll get some of these questions answered. But for those of you who are on the social media, we have created a platform on our social media platform where you can air your views on the program. You can tweet at us using the hashtag Nigeria2015. Please use the Twitter handles on your screen at Channels TV and at Neota Egbe. You can also tweet at us with the hashtag voting if you're going to vote and not voting. Why are we saying this? Because we do know that some people have collected their permanent voters cards but have decided that they would decide to vote on Friday night, whether they will vote or not vote. But do tweet at us with those hashtags and let us know. If you have comments or questions of more than 140 characters, do send us an email to nigeria2015@channelstv.com. You can also send us pictures through our Eyewitness platform. Now, this is how you will do that. Download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS, and Windows phones. Tap to show the Eyewitness menu and follow the instructions to share. You might say also that you do not have any data on your device. You can send your report, your Eyewitness report, on this same platform using the SMS medium. Now, we'll get you to bring you some of the pictures that have been sent in by some of our Eyewitness reporters in the course of the program. But joining us tonight on the show, Rotimi Fashiking is a member of the All Progressives Congress. Nyaetu Ezekiel, architect, is a member of the People's Democratic Party. And via Skype, we will have Clement Nwankwo, Executive Director of Policy and Legal Advocacy Center and convener, Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room, and Sam Moma, former Minister of Science and Technology, also an author. They'll be joining us via Skype in the course of the program. Now, preparations are now at peak level for the elections on Saturday. The nation's land and sea borders have been ordered shut from midnight of Wednesday, March the 25th. They will only be reopened by midnight Saturday, March the 28th, when the elections would have been concluded. The electoral umpire has begun the distribution of some materials to some states while continuing its meetings with stakeholders in the elections. It's from one of those meetings that a statement credited to the Inspector General of Police came forth. Now, what is that statement? According to reports around, the Inspector General of Police asked that all voters having voted would leave. But let's see exactly what his words were. It was quoted as saying, "Security operatives expect everyone to vote and go. 2 or 3 policemen will be there to protect votes cast by the electorate." Now, this is some of the things that the Inspector General of Police has said. And finally, every eligible voter should feel safe enough to cast their votes. Credit to the Inspector General of Police all about the preparations for the elections. Now, when he made that statement about voting and leaving the polling stations, there were some reactions. Let's see some of those reactions that were put forth. The INEC chairman had this to say about that statement by the inspector. He said, "No part of the Electoral Act that forbids voters from waiting at the polling booth. The law was only against loitering." So some would say, is it a question of semantics between loitering and waiting? What's the difference? We'll hope that we'll get some of these questions answered, the difference between loitering and waiting. But it's not only the INEC chairman that reacted. The All Progressives Congress had this to say: "Ignore the IG's unlawful order and listen to Jega. The IGP has no constitutional right or powers under the Constitution or Police Act to rewrite the electoral law." That's credited to the All Progressives Congress spokesman. But the PDP also had something to say about this. What's that? Let's see if we can get that up here. Well, okay, still like Mohammed, but this is what the PDP have to say. During elections, vote and do not look for any trouble. Do not allow them to rig. We must use this election to prove our enemies wrong. Dr. Ahmadu Ali of the People's Democratic Party, that was his own quote. But let's go back and see what exactly does the Electoral Act have to say about voting and waiting or loitering around there. Now, first, Section 129 sub 1I of the Electoral Act states that no person shall, on the date on which an election is held, do any of the following. What are those things that you're not allowed to do? 1, acts or things in a polling unit or within a distance of 300 meters of a polling unit. Loiter without lawful excuse after voting or after being refused to vote. Again, that question of loitering. Second, the Constitution, in giving the President police power, states that Section 215 sub 3 that the President may give to the Inspector General of Police such lawful directions with respect to the maintenance of peace and securing the lives of the people. Now, that's what the public safety and public order as he may consider necessary, and the Inspector General of Police shall comply with those directives or cause them to be complied with. So, is the Inspector General's comment based on a directive from the President? Well, we're hoping that we'll get answers to all of this as we move along in the course of the show. I understand one of our correspondents, Amaka Okafor, is standing by to speak with us, bring us up to speed on what's going on. Okay, we'll bring her on in the course of the, but let's find out what our guests have to say about voting and waiting. Let me begin with you, Architect Ituk.
Okay, thanks for having me. I should say that first. One of the things that we must realize that there is a difference between an opposition party and government. An opposition party has every right to seek whatever they feel is in their best interest, whatever they feel serves their best interest. They have that right. But government has the responsibility. PDP is not just a party, PDP is government. And if anything goes wrong, the government is held responsible, and they are told it was your responsibility to ensure the protection of lives and property in this country. You ought to have been proactive. You ought to have known what to do. The same opposition will turn around and blame the government for not being proactive. So what the government does is this. When you look at the law, I happen to be an architect. When you look at 300 meters, the length of a football field is about 100 meters. We're talking of 3 football fields put together, which means a distance that your eye can hardly even see. That's where the law says you should be. Now, we know practically that this election, this period has been extremely tense. So what government has tried to do is to give INEC whatever powers they need, to give the people whatever confidence they need to go cast their vote. That's why the government supported the use of technology to be able to have as transparent a process as possible.
Okay, let's bring in Mr. Fashikin. Mr. Fashikin, now, based on what he's saying, it looks as if the IG was acting on the directive of the government.
Well, it doesn't really matter on whose directive that is acting on, but I think what the IG said was totally ultra vires, and really beyond. I mean, when you say somebody has overreached himself in a way. As regards the implementation of the electoral process, the relevant laws, both the Constitution and the Electoral Act, have firmly placed that implementation on the laps of the electoral umpire. That's the INEC. And INEC has given clear-cut, unambiguous directives as what should take place on election day. As a matter of fact, under normal circumstances in neighboring Ghana, the security men, the troops to be used on election day are usually placed under the ambit, of the electoral umpire. The troops in the barracks are under the the powers under the superintending hold of the president. So, to that extent, when you understand that, you now understand that as regards this election, what we should do, how we should conduct ourselves, have been placed under the purview of Professor Atahiru Jega.
Okay.
And he has said unequivocally that when we vote, we wait. So long we don't, constitute ourselves as nuisance.
Constitution of a nuisance. That's what he's saying. As long as you don't constitute yourself as a nuisance.
As long as you don't constitute yourself as a nuisance.
Let me, you see, sometimes
you have to do that in 3 seconds because I need to move.
2 seconds, not 3.
Okay.
Sometimes we act as if we do not live in this country. In 2011, we know what happened. The question is, if you are a responsible government, what are the what are the steps you would take, preemptive measures, to ensure that those things don't reoccur?
Okay, we'll come back.
Can I controvert that? Can I controvert that? Let me just say something here. The fairest and the freest election that this nation has ever witnessed, the June 12, 1993 election, was such that there was no single, number one, no single soldier, there, in any way, in uniform, anywhere around polling units. That's number one. Okay. And you understand that the only guarantee, for peace in any clime is to let it be seen that there is transparency.
All right, thank you.
In everything.
We have to go to our correspondent, Amaka Okafor, who is standing by on Skype to bring us up to speed on what is going on. Hello, Amaka. We understand the National Human Rights Commission is having some concerns about preparations for the elections.
Yes, Nota, it's true. The chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, Professor Odinkalu Chidi, said the commission has made some findings between when it released its initial report on violence in the 2015 election. Now, the greatest concern for them is that the first peace accord that was signed between the presidential aspirant of the All Progressive Congress and President Goodluck Jonathan had broken down. According to him, you have governors making incisive statements, you have people making hate speeches, and they are also concerned about the fact that there is a proliferation of small arms and light weapons, and in some cases, high-caliber machines that state actors don't even own. They are also concerned that this has led to migration, internal migration in the country. Another major concern for them is the fact that militia gangs are springing up, and people are being recruited on the standby to, cause mayhem during the elections. They have asked politicians to do the needful to ensure that Nigerians don't pay with their lives during the polls.
Do you know if this report have been handed over to the security agencies, the police, the Department of State Service or no?
He didn't say so. He didn't say so. He just told us what they found out, because after the first report was released, they gave room for people to make contributions. They went around the country to make verifications of some of the concerns that were raised initially. And this particular report is findings of what they have been able to gather between the 13th of February and today.
Thank you very much, Amaka. Our correspondent Amaka Okafor from Abuja brings us up to speed on what the National Human Rights Commission is worried about concerning the elections. We'll take a short break and we'll come back to continue the conversation. Please don't go away.